Hello and welcome to this YouTube video. So in this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to integrate Google Login and Google Sign-in into your Django project. So users will be able to sign into your website using their Google accounts. So what I have here is a README file, which just outlines all the steps that we're going to take. So I created it so that it will be easy and structured, and so that you also can refer back to it in future. Now, if you want to get all the code to this project, you are going to see a link in the description, which will take you to the GitHub repository where you can get the code, including this README file. Now, I am going to show you what I already have on ground. So in a previous tutorial, I explained how to build a full authentication system. So users can log in, register, and reset their passwords. And that is what you have currently running right here. And I can show you, for example, I can log in as the admin account. And then once I log in, you are going to notice that I will be brought to the home page. So you can see I am brought to the home page, and it basically just says hello world, and then there's a logout button. So the only way I can access this home page is if I am logged out. So I'm going to click logout, for example, and the moment I try to access the home page, you can see that we are being redirected back to the login page. So this is what I have so far. It's just a basic authentication system that does login, logout, and password resets. Now I would like to integrate Google login into this project. I'm just going to have a sign in with Google button right here. And I will also have a sign up with Google button right here. As you can see, this is what it looks like. So I am going to be adding this button to my login page, and we're going to see how to make everything work. Again, if you want to get the code, a link is going to be in the description that will take you to a repository. And if you have any question, feel free to ask it in the comment section. So let's begin. So looking at this README file, the first step is that we need to open our Django project. So you can see I already have mine opened right here. So that's basic authentication system. The one that I just showed you is what I have open in my Django, in my code editor. So I already have it open. And then this step says, I am going to assume you have a Django project created already. So it says open that project in your code editor. So it could be VS Code or PyCharm or something else, whichever one you choose. Now the next step is that we need to create a project or a new project on Google. So because we are going to be authenticating users with their Google account, we need to head to Google and create a new project so that we can connect that Google project to our Django project. Now this step says that we need to head to the Google Cloud Console below. So I want you to just copy this link if you are following with the README file, or you can just type console.cloud.google.com. So I'm just going to head to Google, open a new tab, and visit that link. It's console.cloud.google.com. So once this loads, make sure you switch to whatever account that you are using. So as you can see, I have 2 and 3 accounts here. So I'm just going to make use of this account. Now, after visiting it, the next step is that we need to click on the project tab and select new project. So I'm going to head back to Google, and then we need to click on the project tab right here. I'm going to click on the project tab, and then the next thing we need to do is we need to click new project because we want to create a new project on Google. Now, the next step is that we need to give your project a name and click create. So I am just going to name this project YT tutorial, YT tutorial. Now, once you've done that, just click create. You don't have to worry about location. Just click create. Now, after creating, it's going to say create project tutorial. So that is going to take a while to do. So it says the next step says wait for projects to get created. So I'm just going to wait a while. Oh, and as you can see, it says the project is already created. So that is very great. Now the next step is that we need to set up an OAuth consent screen. So the OAuth consent screen is basically what your users see when they click sign in with Google. You know they are going to be taken to a page, and then they have to select what Google account it is they want to log into. log in with. And then, so that is basically what they say. We want to set up that page. So it says this is where we set up what a user sees when they click sign in with Google. We need to set this up before we can get our OAuth credentials. Now we are going to see how we are going to get the OAuth credentials later on in this tutorial. The first step is that we need to set up the OAuth consent screen. So what we need to do next is after the project has been created, we need to select project after it has been created. So I will just head back to my Chrome and I'm going to click select project because this is the project that I had just created. So you know that it has been selected when it says you are working in whatever project name you named it. Now, after clicking the project, the next step is that we need to expand the navigation menu on the left and select OAuth consent screen. So we'll click API and services, and then we click OAuth consent screen. I'm going to go back, expand the navigation menu, and then I am going to click API. I'm going to hover over API and services, and then I'm going to come down and click OAuth consent screen. Now, after clicking that, what we need to do next is under user type, we need to select an external type and click create. So I'm just going to be following all of these steps because I had gone ahead and prepared this so that we know exactly what we are going to do. I'm going to select external and click create. So I will head back and I'm going to select external because this is asking us to choose how you want to configure or register your app, including target user. So internal is only available to users within your organization. And since we're not in an organization, just click external and because it's going to be available to any user, any test user with a Google account. So we're just going to click create. And after clicking create, we're going to be brought to this page. Now, the next step is that we need to fill the form. So under the form, we need to fill in an app name and select user support email. I'm going to go back and then we need to fill in an app name for this consent screen. So I'm just going to call it YT tutorial consent screen. Let me just zoom in here so that you can see it. So I named it YT tutorial consent screen. Now for the user support email, this is usually the email that is linked to your Google account. That is the email that you are currently using to create this OAuth consent screen. I'm just going to select that specific email. Now you can choose to add an app logo if you want to. So that way, when a user clicks sign in with Google, it's going to display your logo and inform you that you are trying to sign into this website using your Google account. Your logo is going to be displayed. So you can choose to add a logo or not. It's not compulsory. Now you can upload a logo as it says it is optional, and then you can optionally add app domains. So what that means is that if you already have a domain, a live domain, like for example, www.example.com, you can add that domain here. And if your website has a privacy policy link, maybe it's yourwebsite.com/privacy policy, you can add that in. And the same for terms of service. So it could be like yourwebsite.com/terms of service. So if you have those links, you can put them in optionally because it's not compulsory. Now, the next step is that we will leave authorized domains for now. That is, if you scroll down, you are going to see that we can add in authorized domain. But we're going to leave this empty for now, and we are going to come down to it and come back to it, I mean. So the next step, it says fill in a developer contact info, and then click save and continue. I'm going to go back, and then at the point where it says fill in developer contact info, what they are really asking for is your email. So I'm just going to put in my email right there. And after putting in my email right there, that should be enough. And that should be everything we need to do in this section. I'm just going to click save and continue. Now, once I click save and continue, we're going to be brought to the scopes section. So let's head back to the README file. It says next, we need to add scopes for the information you want to get that you want to get access to from the Google account. So what we're basically going to be doing here is we're going to tell Google the exact information that we need to get from each user's account. Because for example, if somebody is signing into our website using their Google account, we want to make sure that we're able to get their first name, their last name, let's say, for example, a profile picture if they have one. And importantly, we want to be able to get the actual email, which is linked to that Google account. So these are the information that we will be getting from their Google account. So we need to set that up under the scopes section. So it says that you need to click add or remove scopes. Let's head back, and then we need to click this button called add or remove scopes. Now, if we head back, the next step is select the first two options. These will give us access to information like a user's email, name, profile photo, and more. I'm just going to go back and I'm going to click the first two. So you can see the first one under the description, it says, see your prime Google account email address. And then the second one says, see your personal info, including any personal info you've made publicly available. So that way we are able to grab the user's information like the first name, last name, email, the profile picture if we want to make use of it. So after selecting those two items, next step is that we need to click update and then we need to click save and continue. So I will just head back and scroll down and click update. And after clicking update, I will scroll down and click save and continue. So after doing that, we're going to be brought to this test users section. So it says under adding test users, we can skip this step because we will successfully be able to log in without adding emails as a test user. So what Google is trying to tell us here is that while we are testing our application in development, we need to add test users. So for example, add their emails. Now, most times this isn't necessary, and this isn't the case because whether you add test users or not, anybody can test your application using any Google account that they have. So you can go ahead and just skip this step, and we don't have to add test users. This is talking from my own personal experience and from what I have done because I have used Google login in a number of projects, and I did notice that we did not have to add test users for anybody to be able to test that application. So we can skip this specific step. So I'm just going to come down and click save and continue. Now, the last page that we're going to be brought to is a summary page. So this is just going to show you everything basically it's going to show you basically everything that we've set up so far, the summary, so we can choose to edit it. So instead of actually giving our app name YT tutorial consent screen, I am just going to edit it from YT tutorial consent screen to YT tutorial. I think that's a better app name. And then I'm just going to click save and continue. And I will save and continue for the rest until I am brought to the summary page. So let's head back to the README file. Now the next step is that it says make sure all your info are correct. And then we now need to click back to dashboard. So once I have gone through everything and I have made sure that everything is correct and this is what I want, I'm going to click back to dashboard. Now that we've set up the OAuth consent screen, we need to move to the next step, which is creating credentials. So here it says we are going to make use of these credentials in our Django project. So remember that I had mentioned that we needed to create the OAuth consent screen before we could get our OAuth credentials. That is what we are going to be doing now. We are going to be making use of the OAuth credentials, which we get from Google. We are going to be making use of them in our Django project in order to properly authenticate users with our Django with our projects on Google. So the first thing is that we need to click on the credentials. Click credentials in the side nav. So I'm just going to go back here, and then it says we should click credentials. So after clicking credentials, let's head back. It says we need to click create credentials and then OAuth client ID. So I'm going to head back to Chrome. So it says we need to click create credentials. And after doing that, click or select OAuth client ID. Now, after selecting OAuth client ID, we now need to select an application type, and it should be web application. Because obviously, since we're building a Django project and it's going to run on the web, we need to select a web application. But if it's something else, you can just select whichever. I'm going to select web application. And the next step is that we need to give it a name. I'm just going to head back and I'm going to give it a name called YT tutorial credentials. So you can name it whatever you want, but this is what I am going to name mine. Now, after giving it a name, next step is that we need to now add, we need to fill authorized redirect URL. So make sure that you are adding in exactly what I am adding. If not, you are probably going to get some errors eventually. So for the first one, we need to add this first URL. So I'm just going to copy it. So it's your local host, which is http colon forward slash 127.0.0.1 port 8000. So it's just the URL that Django provides to you, the development URL, when you run your server, which is this right here. So after copying it, I want you to just go down to authorized redirect URLs and then click add URI. I want you to paste that first one. And after pasting in the first one, we need to add this second one. Please make sure that you are adding exactly what I am adding, because this has been known to give issues. So it's going to be your development URL, which is localhost port 8000 forward slash accounts forward slash Google forward slash login forward slash callback. And please add this trailing forward slash in the callback. Now, after doing that, next step is that it says make sure you add exactly those URLs. And the next step is that we need to click create and then we need to download created credentials. So I will just head back and click create. So it says it may take up to 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, so now we can see that our credentials have been created immediately for us. So we have the client ID right here, and then we have the client secret. So what you just need to do is click download JSON, and that is going to download those credentials for you. So you can just leave them there for now, and we are going to make use of them later on in this tutorial. Now here is the part where we are now actually going to work on the integration into our Django project. Now, the first step is, or the next step is that we need to install OAuth, which is the actual library, which is going to help us integrate this Django Google login. So if you want to visit it, just go to a new tab and search Django OAuth. And once you search that, it's going to be the first link which you see. So it's going to be the documentation for Django OAuth. So here they explain how to integrate a bunch of other authentication packages, like you have signing with GitHub, signing with Facebook, and a bunch of other ones. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to install OAuth before we can actually make use of it in our Django project. So I'm just going to copy this command, head to where my virtual environment is running, and let me just clear out my screen and zoom in here. And I'm going to paste it. So again, if you want to get access to this README file, there's going to be a link in the description, which will take you to the GitHub repository where you can get this. So once I paste that, I will just run it. Now, I'm also going to assume that your virtual environment is activated and you are running this command inside your virtual environment. So once I run that, you can see that it's going to go ahead and install this library. So I will just pause here and wait for the installation to complete. All right, so right now we can see that the installation has been completed. So I will just clear out my screen and head back to my code editor. And the next step is that we need to configure some things in our settings.py file. So I want you to head to your application folder, your project folder, and open your settings.py file. Now, the next step is that it says we need to add a variable of site ID to the settings.py file. Now, I'm just going to copy that and paste it after the allowed host. So let me just zoom in here. So I will copy that and paste it after the allowed host. And the next step is that we need to add the following to our installed apps. Now, I'm going to explain why we're adding these. So just go to your installed apps and then just add these right here. So the first one we're adding is django.contrib.site. You are going to see why we're adding this shortly. Now we're adding OAuth because we are going to be making use of the OAuth, the Django OAuth library in order to write out this Google login authentication feature. And while we add all accounts, all auth social accounts, and all auth social accounts, those providers, those Google, to make sure that you have exactly what I have pasted here so that you don't have any issues. And the next step is that we need to specify authentication backends. I'm going to explain this, but first I will just copy it. And after copying it, I'm just going to head to my settings.py file. And after the installed apps, I'm going to paste authentication backends right here. So what we're simply saying is that we want to specify the backends that we're going to be using for authentication. So you have the first one called django.contrib.auth.model backend. So that is the default one that Django gives to us. And that's the default one which I had used when I was writing out the authentication feature, which was here, the normal Django authentication feature. And the next one is allauth.accounts dot auth underscore backends dot authentication backend. So make sure this is exactly, make sure you type exactly what is written here. So this authentication backend basically comes from Django OAuth, and it helps us integrate um, things like Google login in order to ensure that our users can log in with their Google accounts. So we have the normal Django authentication system or the normal Django authentication backend. Then we have the authentication backend. Now, after adding the authentication backends, the next thing that we need to specify is login and logout redirect URLs. So I will just copy these and I will scroll down and let's just paste them after my static files right here. So I will just paste this here. What does login redirect URL mean? It basically means, okay, once a user has logged in, where should they be redirected to? So in our case, when a user logs in with their Google account, whatever URL we specify here, they are going to be redirected to that specific endpoint. So by putting in just forward slash here, we're telling Django that when a user logs in, we want them to be redirected to a home page immediately. So that is why we put a forward slash here. And it's the same thing with the logout to redirect URL. When a user logs out, we want to redirect them to the. Now you can choose to have a different style of integration. For example, if I go to my views right now, I have a logout view which I wrote here. So when a user logs out, they are immediately redirected to the login page. So this is through the normal, the Django inbuilt logouts method. So once I just log out the user, they get redirected to the home page. So that means I can also come and remove this line. So it depends on whatever you want to do, but I'm just going to leave it there just for following the steps of this tutorial. Now, the next thing is that we need to include all auth URLs in our urls.py file. So all auth also has a bunch of inbuilt URLs that we need to include in our own project URLs. So I will just copy that. It says head to your URLs file in your projects folder and add the following. So I will go to my projects folder and open the urls.py file. So let me just save my settings first. So after coming to my urls.py file, the first thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that include has been imported into the URL file. So from django.urls, import include. So after doing that, we are just going to paste that in. So we're saying that we are going to be hitting the account forward slash endpoint. And on this endpoint, we want to include all the URLs which all auth gives us. So I believe you can actually view these URLs. So if you want to view them, just click Control, press Control and hover over URLs and click it. So this is what we do in Visual Studio Code, and it works like that. So once I click that, we can see all of these inbuilt routes which is present in all auth. Now, if we look at them carefully, we can see that we have a bunch of these URLs created successfully, and we wanted to include them. So that is why we are making use of the include method to add all these URLs to our project. So once you've done that, just save the file. Now the next step is that we need to update the templates button with the login link. So I will actually head back to my templates file right now, my login templates file. Now, I already have had the button, but I had just commented it out so that I could come and uncomment it later. So once I save that and head to the browser, once I refresh, okay, let me run my server. I'm just going to python manage.py run server. So once that is running now, it gives us an error. It says Django.core.exception improperly configured. All auth accounts middleware must be added to settings middleware. Okay, so from this right now, the error says that we need to add all auth accounts dot middleware the account middleware to our middleware list. So I'm just going to copy that and head to my settings.py file, and I will scroll to where I have my middleware. So I'm going to paste this at the top right here. So just paste that in and save it. So once you do that, let's head back to the settings.py file to the terminal. So you can see that it is running successfully now. So once I do that, let me just head back to my browser and refresh. Now, once I refresh, you can see that it now gives me this button, this sign in with Google button, which is very, very nice. Now, I also wanted to say, if you want to get the code, which is going to give you this button, what you can do is you can just, first of all, write out this button right here. You can pause and just write this out. Now, take note of this class, login with Google BTN. And if you want to if you want the CSS that styles this up, just you come here and you can copy this button right here. So let me just zoom out. So you can just pause and you can write all of these out. It's from here to right here. So that is literally all the code for the button. So you can pause and write this, or you can get the style from the GitHub repository using the link below. So after doing all that, if you head to the terminal, you can see that it says you have 17 unapplied migrations. So we're saying this because we are making use of OAuth, and OAuth comes with its own database tables. So what we need to do is we need to run python manage.py migrate. So once we run migrate, it's just going to apply all of these changes. So you can see social, token, nullable, alter social. So you see it just applies all of these migrations. I'm just going to clear my screen and run my server again. So once I run it now, we should see that that error has been cleared out. Now, the next step is that after adding, the next step is that we need to update the templates with the Google, with the login link. So the first thing I need to do is add this load social account. So I'm going to head to my login .html page, and I'm going to paste this in the header tag. It says load social account. So this is just going to help us make use of custom template tags from social account. Now the next step is that we need to update the button. We need to add this onClick method. Now what this onClick method is going to do is that once we click the button, it's going to redirect us to this URL. Now this URL is coming from this social account. So we're going to say provider underscore login underscore URL, and then we're passing in Google. So this is just going to help us. This is just going to generate the URL for us, which is going to take the user to where they can sign in using Google. I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to scroll down to where I have a sign in with Google button. And after the type of button, I'm just going to paste that. So I need to add the window. Okay, sorry. I need to add onClick is equals to, you know what, I can just copy it from here. I'll just copy that, this onClick, and I will paste it into the HTML. So we're going to say onClick equals window.location.href. So we want you to redirect the user to whatever URL we get from here. So it says provider login underscore URL, and then we pass in Google. So if you are doing a different integration, for example, if it was login with Apple, you could pass in Apple here, and then whatever URL that Apple uses to log users in is going to be generated and passed in here. But since we're using Google, we're just going to pass Google into that quotes right there. Now, I am also going to do this again for my register um, my register page. I'm just going to scroll all the way down, and in here, I'm going to paste that. I'm going to paste that here. So I'm going to remove this social accounts and put it at the top in the header tag so that everything is nice and clean. And instead of sign in, I'm going to say sign up with Google. Now, the next step is that we need to set up the social account in admin. Now, it says we need to first of all create a super user to access the Django admin dashboard. So if you haven't already created a super user, just head to your command line and create a super user. I'm going to assume you know how to do this. So you do python manage.py, create super user, and then you enter your super user's login details. So I am just going to do that I'm just going to log in like as an admin in a different tab. I'm going to go to /admin. I'm sorry. So once I get to my admin page, I'm going to sign in with my admin details. So password is admin, and then, oops, sorry. Password is admin. I'm sorry, username is admin. Now enter the password. Now, after entering these details, you can see that we have been brought to this page. Now, if I zoom in here, you can see that you now have um, two extra models that you didn't create, but just came along with the libraries that you had installed. The first one is you have sites. Now, the fact that you can see sites here is because in our settings.py in installed apps, we added django.contrib.sites. So by adding that, we were able to get this sites table right here. And then because you installed OAuth, we now have all of these tables: social accounts, social application tokens, and social applications. So what we're going to do is we're going to be making use of these in order to configure our login process. So I will go back to my code editor, and the README file says that we need to click sites and click the first entry to edit. So I'm just going to go to the admin and I'll click sites. So once you click sites, you can see that you have been given a default site has been created for you. Now, what you can do is you can decide to edit this existing site, or you can choose to create a different site, add a different site. But for me, I'm just going to edit this first site, which is present here. The first step says click site and click the first entry, and then change the domain and display names to this. So I will just copy it, and then we need to click it. And once I click it, change the domain name to that and change the display name to that. So if you are going to push to production, that is, you want to push to your production server for your customers to use it, you can then come and change this from your local host to your live domain. So once you change it here also, what you now need to do by extension is you need to head back to your console, your console.cloud.google.com, and then you need to change those authorized redirect URLs from the local host to whatever domain you are using. So for example, this could be example.com or mydomain.com. So after doing this, I want you to just click save. And once you save that, it's going to update those details. Now, there's something important that I want you to note. Because it was the first entry here, it has an ID of 1. And if you remember, in the settings.py file, we had added a variable called site ID equals 1. So if, for example, I were to say, if for example, I said, I don't want to make use of this entry, I want to make use of a different one, and I click add site, it means that this new site is going to have an ID of 2, because you know it increments with each value that you add to the database. So it means that if I make use of this one, it's going to have a site ID of 2. So if I now add a new entry and it's that entry I want to make use of, and it has an ID of 2, then I need to head back to my settings.py file and change this from 1 to 2. So I just wanted you to take note of that. So I'm going to leave it as 1 because all I did was I edited the first entry which existed here. Now, the next step is that we need to click social applications and add a new social application. So I am going to go to my admin, and it says we should click social applications right here. And after clicking social applications, we need to click add social applications. Now, it says select Google as your provider. Obviously, because we are working with Google signing, we need to select Google. And you can see that in the drop down, it's only Google that is showing, because in our settings, the .py file, we had only configured Google here when we said all of the social accounts .providers.google. So only Google exists here. But if you are using um, a different authentication method, like let's say Microsoft or Apple, this would be .apple or .github or whatever. Now, after selecting Google as the provider, we need to get the client ID and secret from the downloaded JSON file. Now, you remember that we had downloaded a JSON file from our console dashboard, and this was the OAuth client secrets, the ID and the secrets which we had created. So what we just need to do is we need to go to where those details were. So because I added it to my, because it is in my downloads, I'm just going to click it and open it in Visual Studio Code. I'm going to click open. So right now, I can see my client ID and my client secret. So after getting this ready, it says that we need to select what site the provider is for. So I'm just going to, first of all, go to my dashboard. And in here, we first need to add the client ID and the client secret. So we can ignore provider ID, and then we can give it a name of, let's say, Google. So you don't need to worry about provider ID. You can ignore this field. But for the client ID and the client secrets fields, we are going to guess those values from the file we had created. So I'm just going to copy my client ID from here, and I'm going to paste it here, right here. And I'm going to do the same for my client secret key. So I'm just going to search for it here, and where we have secret key, I'm just going to copy it. And after copying it, I'm going to come and paste it right here. Now, once we've added that, we can just leave every other value empty except here. Now, under the site field, we need to select what site this entire credentials are for. Since we already created one site before, which is the one we had edited, I'm just going to click it, double click it, and add it to this chosen site. So once I do that, all I need to do is just click save. Now make sure that your configuration looks exactly like this so that you don't get any issues. So just click save. Now once we've saved that, the next step says that we need to click save. Okay. Now the next thing is that we need to run our server and test to see if users can sign in with Google. So that is basically all we need to do in order to ensure that users can sign in with Google on our platform. So I'm just going to make sure my server is running. And then once I checked that my server is running, I'm going to go back to the login page, and then I will refresh. So I am just going to check for why the style isn't kicking in. And so I'm going to leave it as a button, but I'm going to wrap that button in an anchor tag. I'm just going to say, sorry, and I'm going to put a href here. And I'm just going to copy this entire link or this URL which Django gives us, and I'll paste it here at the href URL. So I'm just going to copy this closing anchor tag, and I'm going to put it after the button close so that the button is going to be wrapped inside the anchor tag, just like this. I'm going to remove this on click in the button. And then since the type is just going to be a button, it shouldn't submit the form right now. So I'm just going to go back and refresh the page. Now, once I refresh the page, you see that once I hover over it, it already has the URL showing in the bottom. So once I click it, so we are being brought to this page right now, but this isn't what we are meant to see. there was something else that, or there's something else that we need to add to the settings.py file so that we are redirected to the proper login URL. So I will just head to my settings.py file. And then after where we have written logout to redirect URL, I will just add this line, social account login on get. Now, once we add this line and set it to true, just save it. Now, once you save it, we should then be redirected to the proper login URL. So I will just make sure that my server is running. It is. Then I will go back to the page I was coming from. I will refresh. And after refreshing, I'm just going to click this link, this button rather. So when I click the button, you can now see that we are being brought to this page where we can select what URL it is that we want. I'm sorry, where we can select what Google account it is that we want to sign in with. So I'm just going to sign in with this specific um, account. Now, once I click it, it says sign into YT tutorial. Now, remember that we had given our app on our project on the cloud console. We are giving it a name of YT tutorial in the OAuth consent screen. So that is why I said that that screen basically it shows what a user is going to see. So because we gave our project a name of YT tutorial, it says sign into YT tutorial and then the account shows. So if I click that right now, I'm just going to go back again and click whatever Google account it is I want to use. And it shows you this description. So I'm just going to click continue. Now, once I click continue, you can now see that we are authenticated and we are able to see the login page because we have logged in with Google. Now, there's something I would like to show you. If I go to um, my dashboard and I click users, you can now see that that user has been added. And once I go to social accounts right here, you can see that that user has been added. And once I click it and scroll down, you can see that in the extra data, we have a bunch of fields. For example, we have the first name and the last name right here, which is what we're able to grab. And then we have the picture right here also, so the profile image. So if I copy that and paste it in a new tab, you can see that it's going to return to us that the profile image of that specific user. Now, I'm going to explain to you how you can get all this information when the user is signing up. Now, um, we also have the first name, which is given name as IODG, and then family name, which is the last name as this value. So we also have the longitude and the latitude. So we have all of this information that we were able to grab from the user's Google account, and that user was successfully created. Now, there's something else that we can do. Since that user is currently signed into our website, we can just like try and print out the user's details. So let's say, let me go to the landing page, the home page, which is index.html. And instead of hello world, I'm just going to say hello, and then I'm going to try and print out the user's name. I'm going to say request.user.username. Now put an exclamation mark here. So once I click that, type that and I refresh, you can see that it now says hello space IODG because that's the username. So we were successfully able to log in with Google. Now, there's one last step that we need to take. It says that we need to create a signal to listen for when a user signs up. So let's say, for example, you want to do something specific with that data. By data, I mean all the data that you have here. Like we have the first name, the last name, the email, the profile image, and all of these values. Now, let's say we want to make use of that specific data for when the user is signing up. We can now do that using a signal. So what a signal basically is going to do is that when a user signs in with or signs up with their Google account on our platform, this signal is going to fire automatically. And whatever block of code we write inside that signal is going to get executed. So I am just going to follow these steps here. It says create a new file called signals.py file, signals.py in your app folder. Now, before I proceed, I would like to give like a practical example of how or why you might need this signal. So let's say, for example, you have a different model called profile, and you want every single user to have a profile object attached to them, what you can do is that when a new user signs up using their Google account, you can grab all of their data from this social login dot accounts or extra data. You can grab all of that data and then create the object. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So just head to your application folder. In my case, the application folder is called core. Let me close all of this. And I'm going to create a new file called signals.py. Signals, Signals, signals.py. Now, once I do that, I'm just going to follow the next step. Now, the next step is that we need to add the following imports. I'm just going to paste that. The first import is from Django.dispatch, import receiver. And then the next one is from all author accounts.signals, import user signed up. So what this signal does is that anytime a user signs up on your platform with their Google account, this signal is going to get fired. And then our receiver function, which we are going to create, is going to listen for when the signal is fired. And then when it is fired, it is going to execute the block of code that we have written inside. I'm just going to copy all of this. It says create a receiver signal that listens and runs whenever a new user signs up with Google. I'm just going to copy all of this and I'm going to paste it right here. So let's explain what is happening. So we had written the to receiver decorator, and then we have passed in user signed up. So we're trying to say that uh, anytime a new user has signed up, that is, anytime this user signed up signal is fired, then we want to create this function called handle signed up, handle user signed up. We want to set this function as the receiver for when this signal is fired. So when it is fired, this function called handle user signed up is going to receive this signal and it is going to it's going to execute all of the code that exists inside it. So if we look at the parameters, we have request in being passed in, and then we have social login, we have user, and then we have keyword ads. Now, this social login is very important because using this object, we are able to grab the extra data that comes from Google. So if I head to the the admin dashboard, you can see that we have a field called extra data, and it just stores some JSON data about the user's information. So we have given name being created and being stored in this JSON data. We have the profile image, we have the email, we have the longitude, latitude, first name, last name, and a bunch of other things which we will need if we wanted to use that data to do something else. So what we have done right here is we created a new variable called new user data, and we've equated it to social login, which is a parameter, dot account dot extra data. So we just want to grab all of the extra data which has been saved here, and then we just want to print it. So in your case, you could make use of that data in order to do something else. Like for example, here it says perform tasks slash processing on data. So let's say, for example, you want to create a new profile object using the user data. You can then grab it from here and then do whatever it is you want to do with that data. I'm just going to save this right now, and I am going to come and delete this account so that we can see the process, so that you can see exactly how this signal is fired and received. I'm just going to come here and delete this user. I'm going to say go. I'm going to delete that social account. And I will also go to users and I'm going to come and delete this specific user. Let's click go so that we can then sign up again. I'm just going to go to my other browser. I'm going to click logout and I'm going to go to the, I'm going to go to the sign up page. Now on the sign up page, remember that I need to do the exact same thing with this button. I need to remember that with this button, I needed to wrap it in an anchor tag. So I have done the exact same thing and I have pasted it in this page. Now, what I can now do is I can just click sign up with Google. And once I click sign up with Google, it's going to again say choose an account to continue to YT tutorial. Now I'm going to click that same Google account. And then once I click that Google account, you can see that immediately after sign up, we've been logged in successfully. So if I head to my terminal right here, we should have seen that signal being fired. Let's see. But the signal wasn't fired. So I am guessing that there is an issue. I'm just going to head to my README file and I suspect we didn't do something. Okay, so the reason why our signal didn't fire is because we didn't import that signal into our apps.py file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new method called ready, and it's going to take in self. So I forgot to add this step into the README file, but I'm going to do that now. Now, all we just need to do into this ready is import core.signals. So what we're just simply doing is that anytime we run our project, it's just going to take note of this core.signals file. So we need to always import the signals file inside the ready method so that Django knows that you have receivers waiting and listening for when signals are fired. Once I do that, I'm just going to close that file and then I'm going to go back to the Firefox browser. You'll see that the account has been created. I'm going to go ahead and delete it again. I'm just going to delete that and then I'll go to social account again, or rather social applications. Okay, so I see it wasn't created. It was deleted along with that user object right here. So once I do that, I'm just going to click logout. Now I am going to try and sign up again. I'm going to click sign up with Google and it redirects me to this page. Now I'm going to select that same Google account. Once I do that, I see that I have been logged in successfully. And the moment of truth is to check my signals, my terminal. So once I check my terminal, I see that all of that data has been printed out for me. So I have ISS, I have I'm not so sure exactly what this stands for, but I also have the sub, I have the name, that's the full name, Ayodeji Adishola, I have the picture, I have the given name, the family name, and a bunch of other details. So if, for example, you wanted to make use of these details in order to perform some processing, or if you wanted to perform extra logic in the signals, I'm sorry, if you wanted to perform extra logic when a user signs up with their Google account, you can do all of that using this signal, which is going to fire. Sorry, using this receiver, which is going to fire when this user signed up signal which is going to work when this user sign up signal is fired, I mean. So that is all we're going to talk about in this tutorial, guys. If you have any question or if you have any contribution, you can just leave it in the comment section. So thank you for watching. And if you want to get the code, there's going to be a link in the description, which is going to take you to where you can get all the code to this tutorial. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.